I was told that this session is going to be for young adults, and I see just probably one young adult out here. Um, well, this session, I would like it to be as interactive as possible. And at every point, whenever anybody has any questions, you keep asking me, because do not wait till the end. Because probably you'll forget a lot of points and so on and so forth. I'm waiting for a particular connection. I think it has come. Can I just test out the guitar? Can you give me some volume? हाँ, power है. मॉनिटर और लाउड हो सकता है? Bit more, please. Is it loud and clear, the guitar? Okay, so this, what I'm going to talk about is music and what it means to be a musician and what all does it entail. To begin with, I mean, music is, for me, it's just another form of expression, just like any other language. And it's a language that is not probably very direct, because there is a lot more scope for interpretation of anything that you're performing, anything that you get to hear. Because when you're speaking, there is something definitive, and probably when I say, you know, come here, go there, or whatever it is, 100%, if it is that simple, 100% of the people who listen to that, they get to know exactly what everybody is understanding the same thing. And there can be other kinds of expression, even in language, which becomes a bit ambiguous, and there is you know, there can be differences of understanding in people. And music is something which I think the interpretation is completely different. Completely, absolutely. So everybody has his or her own way to interpret a particular emotion or whatever is coming out of that piece of music that you get to hear. For me, music is one of the most simple things. It has got only 3 elements. And those 3 elements are basically rhythm, melody, and harmony. Let me just switch this off. So rhythm is the most basic element of music, and that is probably where music started from beating of some hollow trees or some stones and various things. And it's basically dividing a time period into equal division of certain, whether it is 3 beats or 4 beats, 5 beats, it can be 5.5 beats. You can complicate it to as much as possible. And that's basically, if you just do this, that itself is rhythm. Okay, this is rhythm. So that's the simplest of things. And that particular rhythm can be then structured into different time signatures and so on. And even in different time signatures, suppose I take a beat pattern of a 4-beat pattern. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. So every, whether it's a 4-beat pattern, it's a 3-beat, 6-beat, 12-beat, the nuances can change by what kind of stresses you're giving it. So that basically is a very basics of what rhythm is all about. Then comes a melody. A melody is, again, over a particular time period, a combination of different notes that you choose to use becomes a melody. So you have basically just 12 notes. Just 12 notes. And from those 12 notes, you choose. By and large, people choose about 7 notes, and that becomes a particular scale, and you can improvise on that. So, the notes that you choose from those 12 notes brings about different moods. And those different moods can be, suppose it's just a simple major scale, that is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, or sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa. So if you just, the normal major scale has a particular mood of its own. And now if I change the set of notes, then it will have another kind of mood. And then I go back to the major scale. And a lot of people believe, and I also used to believe for a long time, especially because I was influenced by Indian classical a lot, that if you choose a particular scale, then any other note that you hit is an off note. And by, I realized that there is nothing called off note. It's how you use it. So now that I'm playing a major scale, I'll show you that I'm going to use all the 12 notes, and it's how you use it defines whether it sounds bad or not so bad. So here goes. So, anyways, it all depends on how you actually use those notes to make it sound good or bad. And then finally comes harmony. Harmony is that at any given point of time, if there are more than one note that is playing, that becomes harmony. And this is, say, if I'm... when you now utilize harmony, um, uh, rhythm and melody together, then you have immense amount of options um, to bring about so many different compositions. Just imagine there are just 12 notes and there are millions and millions of compositions all over the world. So I'll just give you this thing where you'll get to hear harmony, you'll get to hear rhythm as well as melody. So. Anyways, so much so for what I think music is all about in a very simplistic way. So if anybody has any questions about this part, then you can ask me and then we can continue with what is to be a musician. Yep. There's a mic.
When you okay, just one insignificant question.
Yep.
When you were improvising on that major scale, when you wanted to demonstrate that mere one note can change moods dramatically and all, was that the D major scale?
Well, D major for me, I tune the guitar whole note lower, and
Whole tone low.
yeah, one whole tone lower. So when I tune it one whole tone lower, the formation on the guitar is that of D, but it's actually C. So it was a C major scale, and from there I improvised. Okay. There's another person out there. Can you give him the mic, please?
Should I have a question.
Yep.
How difficult is it to be a musician in the Indian classical tradition as well as the Western classical tradition? For example, my daughter here, she's been learning the violin in the Hindustani style for the last 5 years. And last week I bought her another violin so that she could learn a little bit of the Western classical. How difficult is it?
How difficult it is to be a musician?
She's finding it very difficult.
Well, be it Indian classical or it be Western classical, music is ultimately music. Okay. You can utilize the Indian classical bits as well as Western classical bits for to be used in popular music too. Now, when you say difficult, now there are two kinds of difficulties. One is recognition, and the other one is what kind of skills you are being able to imbibe, right? So what exactly is difficult for her? Is it the recognition, or is it
on the instrument? The tunes on the notes on the instrument, and the use of the little finger in the Western style, which is not there in the Indian style.
okay?
And the two styles are interfering. So what I've done for her is that one day she does Indian, the other day she does Western, like that. Is that advisable, or should you just do both together?
Uh, Difficult to say. It's better not to confuse a child. It is better. Look, the thing is that once you have attained a certain amount of a certain level of skill on any instrument, you will find that the person will be able to do certain elements in other genres of music also. So it does not mean that you have to learn both together and get confused. And finally, I would say that, if nobody should do anything in life where it is a strain. If the person is enjoying it, I think that's the time she or he should, play, practice, whatever. And if you're not, then probably it is not as fruitful because music is not just playing notes. It is not just the technicality. The expression comes from much, much more within. And forcing it on somebody, I think, takes it away from the person rather than letting the person grow with it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Good morning, sir. So I have a question related to your guitar soloing. As per you you were soloing in the major as well as in the minor scale.
Yeah.
But you develop in the minor scale so well that it wasn't recognized. It wasn't possible for me to recognize that when you changed it.
Huh.
So whenever you change the scale, is it some timing in your brain, or it's just the peace in your soul that allows you to do so?
I have never given it so much of thought. But I think both timing as well as, look, the thing is that expression finally comes out not just by technically changing notes and all those kind of things. Everything put together comes out to be an expression. So it is not just changing the notes, it is also the tone that you're being able to get from the instrument. It is also the differences in the volume that you're using, how hard you're hitting the string or how soft you're doing that, even in singing, and I personally feel that there are people who can sing, say, very, very loudly. But unless and until you can also sing softly, that loudness loses that meaning after a while. So the expression can come at this point of time, frankly speaking, I'm not getting the right tone of the guitar, otherwise I probably could have demonstrated that. I'll once again try and, can I have a little bit less of the treble on the guitar? I'll just try and demonstrate that a little bit, okay? So, thank you.
So, sir, for all the musicians being here or guitarists, what would you like to suggest that being technically advanced is important, or just to play with the flow? Just to play with flow. For example, I am not at all technically advanced. I am also a guitar player. But I never follow the techniques. I just play whatever comes to my heart.
Right.
But at the same time, when I see other guitarists and I just see them, they are technically advanced, they can do better sweep picking and all and all and all. So I think that what should I do actually to follow, to, you know, just improve myself? What should I do to improve myself as a guitar player?
Look, if you want to play with other musicians, a little bit of technicalities is necessary, because then how will you communicate to them? That what are you playing? You know, at least you should know whether you're playing a minor scale or a major scale, and where you're changing, what kind of a beat pattern you're using, what kind of stresses you're giving. So a little bit of technicalities to just to tell the other people. But flow is something which is the most important thing. So if you feel that you're in a flow and you want to just continue with that, that's the best thing that can happen. That's the best thing that can happen.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that, you know, there is no such thing as an off note, and it's how you play it.
Yep.
And I'm reminded of you know, this same concept in poetry. I was reading a book by Stephen Fry on poetry, where he says that, you know, meter, when you talk about meter, there are several meters and so on, but really in one sense he says the same thing, but on the other hand he also says that structure liberates the artist. I mean, in the absence of all structure, very few people can handle that very free flow, you know, no rules kind of thing.
Right.
So, I mean, for somebody who's not as proficient as you are, isn't it a little bit risky advice to give that, you know, don't worry about off notes?
Look, the thing is that probably just to first learn the basics, you know, if you have to break the rules, then you have to know the basics, right? Probably you're right. So when you're teaching a person the major scale, you teach the person the major scale, but when you are also, when the student or the person who's learning is getting to hear so many other music, where he or she gets to hear so many other notes that are playing and yet it is not sounding good, needs to be told in a very, very early stage that these can also happen, but that will come later. But that needs to happen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We all know that the guitar is a great solo instrument, and
Yep.
artists and musicians tend to be idiosyncratic, or at least sensitive people. So what has been your experience in collaborating with other such idiosyncratic or sensitive people in creating one piece of music?
No, you're talking about guitar players being having those nuances, or you're talking about all musicians having that nuances?
I think all musicians.
All musicians. I think in the space of creativity, the emotions run a bit high because you're ultimately expressing something from within, and that is there. But a lot of times those emotions are quite misplaced also, and a lot of times you see, especially in the pop genre, that people are looking for recognition much before they have attained a certain level of expression. So that is something which probably can be avoided. And if you come across such musicians or any artist or any other person in other spheres, it's better to avoid and continue with your own endeavor. So the next thing that I would like to talk about is to be a musician, there are three different things that is important. And we were talking about composition. Somebody talked about structure. Who talked about the structure? Yeah, you talked about structure. Yeah, so to be a musician, there are three different things. One is composition, one is recording, and the third thing is performance, right? So I'll first deal with the composition bit. I'm glad that you talked about structure, because I also believe that structure is a must when a composition has to happen, but not a formula. Unfortunately, what has happened is the structure has taken the form of a formula in our in most of the pop genres. Okay, so that formula can be avoided, because then you're basically following the footsteps of various different people. So the structure the structure is necessary, but it need not be the same in each and every composition. It can completely vary, completely vary. So that is one. And secondly, I would stress upon the fact that it is extremely important that a musician composes his or her own pieces. Because ultimately it is your own expression, your own emotions that you're trying to express. And the joy of being able to compose your own pieces to express your own emotions is something else altogether. It is difficult to express, and I'm sure in life also when you experience certain things in your own way and can express it even through words, I think that itself becomes a huge pleasure. And therefore, especially in the field of arts, if you can come up with your own expression, with your own style, that is extremely important. So by structure, I would again try and play something just to elaborate this particular thing. I'll first just improvise, okay? And that also probably will have a particular emotion, but it would not be a structural composition. I would not call it a composition because I'll never be able to replicate it. So this is I'll play. It might sound good, but I would not call it a composition. Thank you. But this was just an improvisation. I would not call it a composition because I'll never be able to replicate it. I'll play another piece which will have a structure, and it has got, now just because I do not have a backup band right now, I would not be able to improvise within the structure much, but I'll play a piece from my, not this album, but last album, Depths of the Ocean, and it's called Depths of the Ocean. So this is a structured piece, and I would call this a composition. Okay, we have 5 more minutes. I don't think I should be getting into any other this thing. Anybody wants to ask any more questions about compositions? Yep.
As you told, there's a difference between improvisation and making a structured composition.
Yeah.
As you told, there's a difference between improvisation and a structured composition.
Right.
But actually, you know, whenever we compose something, we just improvise it,
Right.
and the result we get is that we just forgot whatever we played.
Right.
And just we miss out that, oh man, that was a great composition. So, is it so necessary to compose in parts? Or is it important to record whatever you are playing? Because, you know, sometimes recording also forces you to play something artificial.
Again, recording what?
Recording also makes us, you know, aware of that thing. Okay, it's being recorded. So we are being artificial at that time. I feel so because I play so.
You basically you lose your naturality when you're recording it, and
Yes.
that is there. But again, that comes from a lot of practice. That how you remember things, because ultimately what happens is that when you have formed certain amount of skills, you can improvise. The key is to be able to recognize what part of your improvisation was actually original, and then to pick it up and then develop it in a very original manner. So that is it comes with a lot of practice to be able to remember. But then there forms. Look, the thing is that people who know how to read notations, I don't know how to read notations. They obviously have been taught how to remember the notes and how it has been structured. But by and by what happens is that you form a kind of a logical pattern within yourself through which you also start remembering exactly what you played and what you liked. But sometimes recording, some people, without telling you have recorded something and make you listen to it, it does ring a bell. Wow, this was actually something beautiful.
Yeah, this happens because, you know, whenever we improvise and we just compose, we remember some small lines, some small parts of it, but we do not remember the entire composition. So just we try to improvise it further.
Right.
But, so should we compose while improvising? It's I guess this is the best way to put out all your feelings in the composition. Is it so?
Right.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Play something more. Okay. Okay, fine, I'll do that.
And maybe you can use this as a segue for that. I'm curious where, outside of commissioned pieces, what your inspirations are for composition.
Even when it comes to commissioned work, I try and see that it is something which is coming from within. What are the inspirations? You know, when you have lived life for about 52 years, you cannot pinpoint exactly what are the inspirations. There are too many things that have gone by and too many things that have influenced you. It could be human beings. It could be some brilliant people who I've seen, and I've seen the kind of wisdom that they have had. It could be some brilliant musicians. It could be some beautiful experiences. You know, a beautiful experience in the in the evening in the forest, you know, or early in the morning. And everything can influence you. Everything can influence you. So there is no such this thing. So since there's little time, I'll just have one more question out there. Yes.
Western classical music is a very formal structure.
From where is the question coming?
Western classical music has a very formal structure.
Yeah.
So do you feel that limits improvisation and spontaneity or in any way, or you don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I do not think so. For a long time, I thought so, but by and by, I've with experience and various things. Look, the thing is that the improvisation out there has already happened in the composer's mind. So the person has probably come up with the most beautiful parts of all the improvisations and put it together as a composition. That is one. And secondly, even within that, there are, I cannot say so much about Western classical, but even in a structured format, there can be a hell of a lot of improvisation. I mean, limitless. And look, let's not say that Indian classical is not structured. Indian classical is also very structured in its own way. Because when you are saying that 3 ताल बजेगा तो 16 मात्रा ही बजेगा, तो वो 16 मात्रा से अलग तो नहीं हो सकते हो. So that is also a structure. And these are, many a times, I mean, I'm not saying that when ragas are composed, you have to stick to it completely, because I have seen some of the maestros, get out of the norms of the raga and yet be fantastic. Yes, there's another question out there. Can two more questions? Yes. 2 more. Quickly, yeah.
Hello, sir. My question to you is, why isn't the classical music appreciated as much as the other music, like by the masses and by the youth today?
I think it's a very long debate, and it is there everywhere. Classical music probably requires far more depth and lot more time to be able to imbibe. And popular music is much shorter formats. It is much easier for them to get across to people, to the common masses. One last small question out there, and I think my time is up.
Hi, Sumit. I think you may have covered this already because I joined the session late.
Right.
But I just wanted to ask you, you said that you can't read notations.
Right.
So how do you maintain the integrity of a composition and the replicability of it at the same time?
Memory.
Okay.
It is just memory. And a composition is not just, it has to have a flow, and that flow kind of takes you through that particular composition in a very automatic kind of a way. It's a very spontaneous flow that continues.
And this doesn't seep in any kind of improvisation when you're recording to maintain the integrity of it? The memory is...
No, I could not get that.
So when you said that the entire composition is in your head, never has been a time where you didn't want to improvise, but you did because you didn't remember it. Something like that happened? Because of the lack of notations?
Yeah. All kinds of things happen. Well, thank you.